Welcome to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, on a snowy, cold, sad Monday in the coldest weather we've had here in a while. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark, the final show of 2021, the year we started this whole thing back in April. And I guess next Monday will be the start of a new era going into the 2022 year. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing this fine Monday?
Well, merry belated Christmas, Parker. Early Happy New Year. And yes, it is freezing outside today, like worse than freezing. And I don't know, did it feel even colder today than it has to you the past couple of days? It did for me.
I did not go outside today. There is nothing outside that needs my attention.
Well, I must say, you look warm. Why don't you show off the threads? It looks
yes,
awesome.
We're rocking the Olympic jersey to celebrate one of our topics today. That is that the Canadians aren't, or that hockey players aren't going to the Olympics.
Oh.
So I've got the jersey for it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was these just got in stock locally here, so I went and picked one up. But yeah, we do have a no Canucks games in the last week. So we're back to our off-season roots sort of here, but they do have a lot of games coming up, at least 3 games over the next week, and hopefully we'll see them in action in 2 days from now. They're supposed to be playing tonight, but nothing to do with the Kraken or the Canucks. It was just the NHL pushed everything back to tomorrow. So no hockey for quite a few days here.
Yeah, I was excited. This was the one where I think we had planned to go 10:15, 10:20, a chance for you to do post-game, me to get back to my office from going to the game, seeing Seattle play in Vancouver for the first time in the regular season. And yeah, you're right. I think I was on the 23rd or 24th before Christmas last week. The NHL announced that they moved not just the Canucks game, every single game from today. They postponed it just to give themselves a bit more time coming out of the break with COVID testing. I see that some games are going on tomorrow, but some others have been postponed. But hopefully we keep our fingers crossed that the Canucks are not one of those postponed ones and they get to resume their season, their undefeated streak under Boudreau on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, and it looks okay for the Canucks here. They have everyone back except Alex Chason's kind of a maybe. We heard that he had a rapid test that came back positive, but his PCRs came back negative. And usually the PCRs are more susceptible to picking things up. So we don't know. We'll know tomorrow most likely if Alex Chason is doing well. But I don't know if the Anaheim Ducks have any COVID issues.
Yeah, I heard 2 or 3 maybe, but that's it, Parker. I think.
Yeah,
so
they added a couple players yesterday and a staff member. So Comtois and Steele are on the COVID list as of yesterday. If that's it for them, then you would think that it would be pretty much a go for Wednesday night.
I agree. And I know we didn't get a chance to talk about all the topics we can talk about. Did you have anything about Taxi Squad on there, or should I just talk about it now? Okay,
yeah, I do have it on there as well.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'm going to move it up my list because that is something we'll talk about for sure. Yeah, so our plan for this show is we're going to talk about sort of, the whole situation. Games have been postponed all around. We'll talk about the Taxi Squad coming back. We'll preview the 3 games coming up for the Canucks this week. Ducks, Kings, Kraken, all on the road. A big USA road trip here. And then we've got some other stuff to talk about, including a GM candidate who seems to be emerging. The Olympics getting basically canned officially, and maybe a little bit of World Junior talk later on if time permits.
That sounds good. And just before we get going, Parker, restful few days for you, or were you hustling and busting? Well, I know today you weren't, but
bit of hustling on Christmas. But the last 2 days I have been fully relaxing. I have not done much in the last 2 days, so it's been
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Slow for me too. A couple family I did see the Spider-Man movie today.
Nice.
Yes, and I know, of course, I always think of you because your name is Parker, and yeah, okay. But no spoilers here. Let's just say on one of my streams last week, an overzealous subscriber spoiled like one of the biggest things. And for me, I didn't know it was a big deal until everyone else in the chat jumped on him. So
Yeah, well, no spoilers. If you spoil anything, you get permabanned.
Okay, that's
it.
fair.
There's no coming back from it. So
Yeah, I had no clue what was
'cause
going
I'm
on.
not scared yet.
I haven't kept up, and it made the show very confusing. I tried to watch one of those catch up videos before, and it helped a little bit. So overall, entertaining though. There's my movie review for everyone out there.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about the games that didn't happen. We've had
All right.
5 games postponed now for the Vancouver Canucks. I had them pulled up, and now I don't anymore. But they were supposed to play tonight, and that was supposed to be a fun one. But the games that they have missed, the first one was Saturday the 18th against Toronto, when that one got canceled that morning, and we talked about that last week, along with the Arizona game, and then 3 more games that have been missed that were supposed to happen this week. They're supposed to play San Jose last Tuesday, Anaheim last Thursday, and Seattle tonight. This was supposed to be a stretch of very winnable games for the Canucks, right? Maybe not the Toronto one. It might be good the Toronto one got pushed, but we talk Arizona and San Jose and Seattle especially. Those are pretty winnable. I'm guessing, it looks like they'll get pushed to February where that Olympic break was supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a good stretch for us. If we were playing all of them, and even so, it's still not bad with Anaheim, LA, then Seattle, and then Islanders, Ottawa. So not really the strongest teams ever. And then we have that week that you're talking about, the 5 away games that all 5 teams. It's going to be brutal in January. So that could make or break our season right there, admittedly.
Yeah, the Canucks are coming back, and there's things to be said about momentum, and the Canucks had been building up that momentum of 6 straight games under Bruce Boudreau, and that kind of got stunted. And we'll have to see, can the Canucks come back from this basically almost 2 weeks, week and a half of no games where they've been rolling, and they now have to go on the road, a late night game against Anaheim on Wednesday. And I think that game will dictate a lot, right? Let's say if they go to Anaheim and they put in a really good performance, right? And they win that game, and then they can ride that, right? They have LA after that. They have Seattle after that. And then they get a nice little break again. And the Islanders and the Senators, such winnable games. And they need to win as many as they can because, like you said, that week after, Florida, Tampa, Carolina, and Washington all in a row, and then Nashville, and then Florida again. This is the time for the Canucks to build up some wins, maybe get ahead of 500, like I've been trying to hopefully say, before they go into that tough stretch where they'll be, doing their best to stay afloat.
Can you imagine, Parker, when they win on Wednesday night, we're talking about a 500 hockey team before New Year's. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time they were 500 was. I think they were
October 5th, maybe. Because they lost their first.
They lost they were above 500 after the second game of the season.
Okay,
because they lost the first one a shootout and they won the second game.
So they had 3 points in 2 games.
They lost the third game, so they were at 500 after 3. They were at 500 after 5 and after 6. After 7 games, they were at 500 after 7 games. They were 3-3-1.
That's right.
And I think that's the last time that they were a 500 hockey team at 3-3-1. Remember, they were 6-14-1 at one point, and now they are 14-15-2.
And I know we always talk about this. We know they have 30 points in 31 games. If we use that 94-point benchmark, I was looking at the math. Give them 4 overtime shootout losses. They not only, but they 30. 17-4 gets you to 94. That's not impossible when considering 6 games ago it was 36, 17-4.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's much more reasonable. It's a much more reasonable stretch here. So yeah. I mean, it is unfortunate the games that did get postponed, right? That Toronto one, probably, out of all of them, that's the one that would be the toughest. But then they had Arizona and San Jose and Anaheim and Seattle, and that they could have very well have gone 4-1 in that stretch and have been an 18-16-2 hockey team and have been right on the edge, right? I mean, they probably would have been 3 or 4 points out of a playoff spot. Right now, as it stands, they're 6 points out. Edmonton has 2 games in hand. Calgary has 3 games in hand. And I don't think at the end of the day, Calgary and Edmonton are going to be the teams that they're chasing. Right. I think it'll be the Ducks, if anybody, who would fall, but they've been on a bit of a run lately. So yeah, it's unfortunate these games get canceled, but they'll get moved to February where, they have this tough stretch, and then they have a couple more games, and then they have that big break where they're in theory going to have these easier games. So if they can get through this next month, right? If they can get through January pretty unscathed and maybe win a couple more games than they lose, be a little bit above 500, and then you get those easier games in February, right? The Toronto one's tough, but then you get the Arizona, the Seattle, Anaheim, and so on.
Right out of the chute, Parker, instead of waiting until 11 o'clock when we're done, you're willing to venture a prediction? Next 3 games, Anaheim, LA, and Seattle?
Yeah, I was thinking we'd run through each one as a little bit of a preview because we do have to get
to fill time. Yes,
but we can do predictions for each of them. But they're going to go 3-0.
I like that.
They're on a 9-game winning streak after this stretch. Is my hope.
Yeah, let's go through.
Yeah, let's go through them. All right, first one: Canucks Ducks Wednesday.
The team we're chasing.
Yes, and it's a late one, 7:30 p.m., meaning 10 p.m. finish. A late night on the road. Canucks haven't played a road game in a while. I guess they had the one against San Jose that they won, but other than that, they had 5 games at home before that. Going on the road against Anaheim. Anaheim has been decent lately. They've won 6 of their last 10, 3 losses in overtime out of those, so they've been racking up points. They're second in the Pacific right now. But like I said, if any team looks like they could falter, it might be the Ducks.
An interesting storyline here is the Bruce Boudreau return to Anaheim, a place, one of the 3. It's interesting. We talked about this when Boudreau got hired, that it's not like he's one and done. He'll stay with a team for 5, 6 seasons, usually 5 seasons. And he always resurrects a team, right? Gets them in the playoffs, usually bows out in the playoffs, but at least gets them in the playoffs. So Anaheim is his second stop after Washington, but before Minnesota. And so not that he's a overly sentimental guy, although he's done some pretty awesome cameos for people on Twitter this past week. But I think that's a cool story is Boudreau going back, and obviously he's the toast of the league right now, one of the feel good stories. So hopefully, it means a good performance for the team for him. And I think it will be. Why wouldn't you be excited to get back on the ice after and continuing your 6-game win streak? Right.
And I mean, this could be a game that starts a bit of a swing, right? If we're looking at the teams that are ahead of the Canucks in the Pacific, right? It's Vegas, it's Calgary, it's Edmonton, and then it's Anaheim as that other team, right? And Anaheim is second right now, but like I said, the Ducks have 4 games in hand on Anaheim, 4 points back. So in theory, they'd overtake just on points percentage. And same with Edmonton. They're 3 games back, but 4 points back. Now, if the Canucks are going to make it, Anaheim's probably the team they'll have to jump, right? So let's say the Canucks go out and win this game Wednesday night. Then the Canucks get a couple easier games in LA and Seattle, and the Ducks then play. I had it pulled up here. Then the Ducks go and play Vegas and Colorado. Their next 2 games, right? So we could, if the Canucks, again, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but if the Canucks go 3-0 and the Ducks go 0-3, then the Canucks are just 4 points back of Anaheim
with a game in hand.
With a game in hand at that point.
I like it, Parker. You're talking my positive language now. I like it.
So this is a real moment for the Canucks to make up some points, and it's not that out of the question.
Not at all. But hopefully, we won't get too sad if somehow the Canucks don't win. But we both think they will.
Yeah, and these games are big, right? These are the big divisional games that matter, and the one that got postponed last Thursday that'll get played in February. But it could be a big game on Wednesday night, and then the Canucks have to go back to back after they've had a long break. So in theory, their legs should be under them, but they're going up against the LA Kings, who have basically they have like the least goals allowed in the Pacific. One of the least goals allowed in the league. They're just also not scoring a lot. They are 5th in the Pacific, 33 points in 30 games. 3 points ahead of the Canucks, but they're kind of faltering a little bit. They've won 5 of their last 10. They've also had some tough opponents there, right? They had Florida and Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Washington. They sort of did that Metro run already. Do the Kings play? The Kings play Tuesday. So tomorrow they play against Vegas tomorrow. So they're going to have a little bit more rest than the Canucks will.
Okay. So, and the Kings, now this is a team, they, along with Anaheim, actually all 3 California teams started off the season really well. And we've seen how quickly LA and San Jose have fallen. So this is a game that the Canucks should win. Yes, back to back, but yeah, if we're trying to pass San Jose and LA, then we have to obviously beat them when we play them. And LA's not as they're not as dangerous as Anaheim is. They don't have Terry, they don't have guys like that. So this is a winnable game. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's, again, you can look at the standings and be like, oh, well, LA is higher. Like the Canucks shouldn't, like you can't say, oh, they should win this game. But if they want to be a playoff team, these are the kind of games that, yes, you should win. And if they can, if they can pull that out, then that would be pretty big on Thursday night. Again, another late game, 2 7:30 games, late nights on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm glad I have the week off of work, so I can stay up late. But yeah, it's 2 big games on this little California stretch here.
Yeah, 2 games, big games and winnable games. And I know I'm gonna try not to say this after every game, but the Canucks could be 1 game over 500 after the Kings game.
They very well could be. And let's say, after the 30th, that will end the year, right? So that's 2 more games in 2021. They could finish above 500 or at 500 if they go like 1-0-1 in these 2 games, be at 500 at the end of the new year, which takes us into January and New Year's Day, New Year's night, I guess. The Canucks go down to Seattle and take on the Kraken for the second time in franchise history.
Wow, and it'll be weird because of that postponed one tonight. Both games, the first 2 games will be in Seattle. We played them near the start of the season. Was it near the start of the season?
Yep, it was the 23rd of October.
Okay, thank you. And then January 1st. So that game, Seattle really, really underachieving, but you and I aren't surprised. We actually both had them pegged to finish near the bottom or at the bottom of our division with a couple of the California teams. So this is a game. You just look at their stats. They're -24 in goal differential. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. Yeah, they're not a good team. They're not a good team.
They're falling off quite a bit. They started okay, but they're just in a rough little skid here.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't look like they're going to bounce back from it. The Athletic has them down at a 2% chance of making the playoffs. So they have really fallen from grace because they were at 70% to start the season on that model, which I didn't agree with, and they have really fallen off.
So fancy stats are good, but they're not perfect, obviously.
Right, of course. And you can't predict how a new team will work together. So, in theory, the Canucks have a real shot at winning 3 of these games. And if they win 2 of these games, I think that's fine, right? It gets you back to 500. If you go 2-1 here, if you can take that 1 to OT, you go 2-0-1, you're feeling great. And then the following week they have the Islanders in Ottawa, and then they get that hard stretch. So the more you can win here, the better. But, I wouldn't count the Canucks out in those games against the Metro Division, right? Maybe they win 1 of those 4, and then, it's not too bad of a hit.
Do you worry at all? Oh, maybe you can say this about any game, but New Year's Day, New Year's night, festive, Kraken Arena will be rocking. The team plays inspired because of that. I use Seattle or whatever.
I think it helps both teams.
Okay.
In cases like that. Especially with Seattle not playing that well, I bet a few more Canucks fans end up in the arena than you might normally expect. Although I'm sure it'll be like 80-20. But hockey in Canada, that's something to get up for. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so now we can do our predictions, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna say 3-0 because why not? There's no downside to being wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like 2-0-1.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
The LA game is the one that's tricky to me because you're right. It is back to back. Not a lot of travel, obviously, but still it is back to back later.
It's a 30-minute drive.
So maybe that's the one that they take the extra time. And maybe so I'm with you. I was going to say 2-0-1. Yeah. And maybe the LA one's the one they go to extra time.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
And speaking of all this, right? I mean, we've had these postponements. We've had entire teams basically testing positive. The Canucks had a good handful as well. And that brings back the return of the taxi squad. Now,
I like the little icon there.
Yeah, the emojis look a lot better on here where they're yellow and actually look like taxis. And on here, they just turn into blobs, basically.
It's like a Space Invader.
Yes, but we have the return of the taxi squad, just like the bubble season.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what this means for the AHL teams because it's going to be a bit of a
Yeah.
hit to them, I'm sure. Not that bad for the Canucks, considering they're
Yeah.
on a California trip here and their team is local. But yeah, we do have taxi squads coming back. So if you do have those, because I mean, we had teams playing with way less than full lineups because they didn't have the salary cap, right? You can't put a guy who tested positive, you can't just throw him on IR and get that salary cap relief. So they were just running out of players. The taxi squad gives them the option as long as as long as guys are making under $1 million, they count for free under the taxi squad.
Yeah, and I believe it's no minimum, obviously, and then the maximum of 6 players. Does that sound right? Is that what it was?
You'll know more than me.
Yeah, but I do know this. I knew Bruce Boudreau was saying today when he was asked about the taxi squad, he said that the Canucks may not have to utilize it that much because with Chason coming back, presumably, they actually have 15 forwards and 7 defensemen. So already with 15 and 7, that's 22 skaters. You already have 4 extra guys. And those 15 forwards, that includes Highmore practicing, Chason, DiGiuseppe, Lamico, Mott, and Dowling as your bottom 6, along with your top 9. So there's your 15 forwards already. So you already have 3 extra forwards. So maybe, if anything, they bring up one more D-man because Hamnick's still not back. He's the only he's the only regular D-man that's out. So it's Sutter and Hamnick are the only guys that are out that would usually be on the roster. So all to say, the Canucks have been, thankfully, with their guys coming back out of COVID protocol, they're quite healthy, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got it here. Yeah, it's 6 players.
Okay.
Any team shy of having a full roster, so 12, 6, and 2, 12 forwards, 6 D-man, and 2 goalies, can bring up a player without playing a game with fewer than so they can bring up a player basically for free. And then emergency recalls also can be made of players with salary cap hits up to 1 million, an increase from the previous 850K limit.
Okay, so I got a question for you, Parker. We know our top 9. We don't have to go through them. We it's the 9 forwards in any combination I put them in. If everyone's healthy, which 3 guys are you taking for your 4th line out of the 6? Out of Mott, Chason, DiGiuseppe, Highmore, Dowling, and Lamico. Which 3 guys are you taking?
Probably Mott, Chason, and Lamico.
Lamico's your center, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I could sub Chason out for Dowling pretty quickly.
Okay.
If putting Chason in means he's on power play 1, then put Dowling in the lineup. That's my thought.
I like Mott and Highmore as the wings on Lamico.
I'd be fine with that too.
But we kind of forget. It's not like we don't appreciate Highmore. It's just out of sight, out of mind. We haven't seen him in over a month, right? So
I was playing NHL like an hour ago, and their rosters are up to date. So they had Chason on power play 1 in game, and it made me very mad because I don't want 78 overall Chason on my power play. Like the Canucks do. So it's definitely it's good that this taxi squad is coming back. Hopefully it prevents more games from getting postponed because they're already at I think according to this article from yesterday, which TSN says they posted this article on December 26, 2022. So this is from the future. There's been 76 games postponed up to this point, I think is what it said. Or 67. Sorry. That is a lot of games that have to get made up in February. And if more and more pile up, right, then you start running out of that 2-week Olympic break suddenly isn't enough to make up all those games.
By the way, I know we're going to talk about, the ramifications of the Olympics and everything, but when you mentioned it, you're playing NHL. I played NHL 22 for the first time yesterday at my brother's place, thinking about getting it now because it's on sale for only $40. But were my eyes deceiving me, or for Vancouver, do they have Pettersson, Miller, Besser, and Horvat all at 86 and 85? Or was I playing like
maybe?
Yeah.
They very well could.
Yeah. We were playing 3s, and we had a 9-8 game. You got to choose the other team for the other team, and we had Islanders versus the Devils, and it was crazy. It was 9-8 in the game of 3s.
Fun offensive teams you got there.
Plus no goaltending. Yes, it was amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Give me a few days to practice so I can play you. Okay.
Sure. Where do you want to go next? Because this is do you want to stick with the Canucks a little bit, I guess. I guess we sort of covered the next 3 games and the taxi squad sort of idea. Should we talk a little bit about the front office?
Yeah.
As 4 days ago or so, Frank Saravalli, this is kind of a little bit rumor before, saying that Patrick Allvin is the quote leading GM candidate for the
Yes.
Canucks.
Another Pittsburgh guy, right?
Yes, he was AGM in Pittsburgh. Although I don't know if I think he became AGM like 2 months before Rutherford left.
Okay.
So he was under Rutherford there.
Right.
And yeah, we could see him getting a nice little promotion there.
I know last week we talked about Alvin quickly. We talked about McFarland out of Colorado quickly. These guys, and obviously no one's going to come here to be an AGM. No one's going to come here, to be an AGM if they're an AGM already. They're looking for promotion from AGM up to GM, and that's what is Alvin the current Pittsburgh AGM right now? He is, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know much about him aside from I'm sure Rutherford loves working with his guys. He already brought one in Clancy, so he's probably looking at another one, at least one more. And he trusts these guys if he won 2 cups with these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's sort of been 3 names tossed around more recently, which was McFarland and Tulsky and Allvin.
Okay.
I think out of those, Allvin would be my third choice.
Yeah.
But I think, I just sort of think back to how things were 3 weeks ago. And I mean, it's not going to get worse than it was 3.5 weeks ago, right? Before that Sunday.
I know you don't have a banner for this, or if you do, I'd be amazed. But quickly, Parker, do you think now that the Canucks have won 6 games straight under Boudreau, is the roster that Benning put together actually not that bad, and it was green?
Yeah, I think. Well, what we said in the off season was that this is a roster that should be able to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So that sort of stands with it. However, I don't think that excuses the first, 6 years of Jim Benning's tenure, right? So sure, I think this roster as it stands right now is good enough. However, he did hire this coach as well, right? You can't overlook that. That is part of his job, is to hire a good coach. And he didn't do a great job of that, seemingly. Like he waited a little bit too long to pull the trigger maybe on Travis Green. And clearly, the rot kind of comes from the top down in cases like that, where they get rid of everyone and suddenly the team starts playing better, right? Is that Travis Green? Is that the team knowing that the whole organization is getting a facelift? It's kind of hard to tell.
That's a very good point. And neither of us wanted anyone to lose jobs because of the human aspect, but I think both of us would have been relatively upset if Green got fired, but Benning didn't. So it makes sense that they went with a clean sweep, just because exactly what you said, that yes, Green was Benning's guy. And you have to kind of trickle down from the top, as you said. That was well put.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So just the quote from Frank Saravalli saying he's basically the leading candidate pending a meeting with the Accolades, which basically sounds like it's going to be the case.
Well, when did he say that? Today?
That was on Halford and Bruff on the 22nd. So that was 5 days ago.
Oh, way back then. Okay.
But I would like it to maybe go the McFarland direction. But if it doesn't, again, it's better than what we had before in my mind.
Yeah, Rutherford seems like he's very steady. He's very assertive in a good way, very confident, and you can't help, at least I can't help be excited, but the direction that the front office is going, that's going to trickle down to what happens on the ice too. Yeah,
he does seem like he really has, an idea, right? Like he's got a path and he's sticking to it. Everything that he sort of said in those meetings, which I think he's met with the media as much as Jim Benning did over the last few years already. But basically saying like, we want diversity in the front office, and we've got guys we're looking at, and we're going to interview a bunch of people, and we're going to pick who we want, and that's that. And I mean, you gotta give some sort of respect to that, especially when you're coming from the, we take it day by day, we make spreadsheets, and all this other Jim Benning stuff that we had over the last few years.
And there's a certain way, a certain confidence that Jim Rutherford instills when he speaks. I remember when he was getting asked about COVID and COVID testing, he didn't really answer, but he flat out said, "I'm not an expert. I will leave that to the experts." But even the way he said it, I can just picture Benning trying to give the same answer. And even if Benning was to say, "I don't know, I'm not an expert," I don't know. I simply think it wouldn't come out as well as it does when Rutherford talks. There's something about the way he speaks, just some sort of authority or confidence.
Yep, I fully agree.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're both happy.
All right. And then my last Canucks topic that I had, and I just want to give a shout out to Thatcher Demko, who was given the save of the year on Sportsnet's countdown for 2021 in that game against the Rangers, where they were putting on the pressure in the third period, and he made like 4 outstanding saves in a row, including the stack the pads and the scorpion save that he made. I watched that little clip package that they put together as their top 10 saves of the year. All great saves, but Thatcher Demko gets number 1 for the year.
You were there.
I was there.
When he made the scorpion save, is that the one where he didn't have his glove?
Yeah, he didn't have the glove, or it was the blocker or something for a good 30 seconds, and they finally blew it down after he made all those sweet saves.
Unbelievable. And then, were you in that end or the other end?
Yep, I was in that end. So I got to see
you saw
that,
it all
and
happen.
then the Miller goal in OT.
Were you losing your mind during the scorpion save?
Yeah, I just stood up and didn't say a word. I was shocked. Yeah, well deserved. Demko's been so good for this team. I don't know, are his stats even good? Like, he's playing so much better than his stats, because his stats kind of killed him on the penalty kill. I mean, he's got a 919 this year. I guess that's not bad.
Yeah. Actually,
but
one thing I was going to say, Parker, one thing that you might be interested in, I was looking this up for a vlog I did under Boudreau. So granted, there are 5 wins. I get that. But he has a 959 save and a 1.36 goals against in this 5 wins.
Yeah, he's been outstanding.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about if the Canucks penalty kill had been good for the first 25 games of the year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's at like a 926, right? Like, and that's not that out of the question, because that's, they've basically allowed a penalty or a power play goal against almost every game, if not more. So yeah, he's been excellent. It's his best save percentage season so far. Last year he was a 915. So
you confident?
He just keeps getting better.
Are you confident in Halak? If Halak gets, say, 1 out of every 3 or 2 out of every 7 games, are you confident that he can do a decent job as backup?
No, I'm not.
No, I appreciate the honesty.
He's only played, a handful of games, and he hasn't looked outstandingly confident. And part of that, again, might be just based on, lack of play time, which is totally fair, right? He's appeared in 7 games this season. But it just hasn't felt like when he's in net that it doesn't feel like they have like a solid foundation.
Right.
Right. Although, the last game he played was against Columbus, where he allowed 3 goals early, a couple of them not great, but then he tightened up when he had to. And the Canucks only won that game because he didn't allow another goal. If he can play like he did in the last 40 minutes of that game, then yes, but I'm a little nervous. Sure, he has a 905 this year, right? Which isn't terrible. A 288 goals against average, which is fine for a backup. But he's 1-4-1. Like they lose the games that he's in net. If he can be more solid, and I imagine, does he get one of these games Wednesday, Thursday? Demko hasn't played in a week and a half. They play back to back. Do they give one to Halak, or do they just ride Demko for both? I mean, after the game on Saturday, they don't play for 4 days.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
Demko's probably got enough rest, but are they thinking, okay, well, we don't want Halak to have that much time between games?
Correct.
It's kind of a thing that can go both ways. But in my mind, if the Canucks go against the Ducks on Wednesday at 7:30 and Demko's lights out, let's say they win like 3-1 and Demko stops, 29 of 30.
Yeah.
How do you not put him in the next night, right? He's rested and the team's on a win streak and they need to keep winning games. They need to build up a bit of a buffer here. I mean, how do you not put him in again?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And with Halak, It's strange because he hasn't lost the Canucks any games, but he also hasn't won them any games. He hasn't stolen any games yet. And granted, the team was pretty bad in front of him. They weren't scoring in front of him, especially under Travis Green. But yeah, I can see. I see where you're coming from a little bit, and I thought he hasn't been bad, but I thought it'd be a tiny bit better because we know what his resume, we know how good he was in especially on Long Island, and then in Boston he was fine. So I did expect a tiny bit more from him, but maybe he's just underachieving like the team did for the first 2 months.
Yeah, and hopefully that can get cleared up.
Yes.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Olympics. The NHL isn't going, and we saw it coming, and it's just unfortunate. Everything sort of fell apart at the last moment. We had quotes from Brad Marchand, who was really upset about it. We had Nick Backstrom saying that he's waited 8 years for it, and he's upset they're not going. And it sucks, right? I mean, you have these, like, you're not going to see Crosby and McDavid play together, probably, right? I mean, that Crosby Marchand Bergeron line was so insane last time they all played together, which was at the World Cup in 2016, right? Imagine that line going out, and then you have McDavid out there with whoever, really. It was going to be so fun, but with everything picking up the way it has, and the risk of teams being stuck there, and 67 NHL games postponed already, with undoubtedly more to come over the next week or two. Just kind of was a matter of time.
Yeah, and it just snowball effect between the COVID, between the fact that they're seeing this window to make up, and we've talked about, they always built in that out clause when they negotiated the Olympics for the NHL and the NHLPA. They said, we can use that 3-week break instead to make up games if we need to. So they always had that clause. So there's no surprise to anyone. But it's interesting with the 3 to 5 week rumored quarantine in Beijing, if you contract COVID there, with all the political stuff, it's almost like the NHL didn't have to go there. I'm not saying that they didn't want to go there, but they didn't have to go there because the practical side of needing that time to make up games meant they didn't have to use any other reasoning as the reasoning. So it from that standpoint, if you didn't want them going, it kind of worked out. But yeah, we're hearing about a lot of players. Some players didn't want to be stuck there, but other players said, especially those, you're right. Think a guy like Stamkos, who has never played in the Olympics yet.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing. I feel bad for him.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've heard, a little bit of talk, but I think it's mostly been of hopefuls being like, okay, well, can we bring the World Cup back at least like 2 years from now, like 2024? Do something like we did a couple years ago, but maybe skip the whole Team North America thing, so it's a little bit more legitimate. Even though it was a fun team, but best on best hockey is something that we haven't had in over 7 years now, right? We're talking February of 2014, almost 8 years since we've had best on best hockey. It's not like the Canadian team was that exciting that year, right? That was shut down hockey where they just won every game 3-1 because they were so much better than everyone else. Just pure dominance. But now, I mean, you look at the American team that looks like it could really put up a fight. Like that could be a crazy rivalry. And unfortunately, we just don't get to see it. So we're going to be seeing like the N team of Canada and like the G team of Americans, right? Like you look at it, and I think I saw a post online, like this was a few years ago, and it was like, what level of team is Team Canada if you take away the NHL players? And it's like the R team. Like you're like 20, you could make like 20 rosters basically out of like NHL and AHL before you're getting to this level of team. Which is unfortunate, right? I mean, I don't even know what it's going to look like. I'm assuming it's going to be, I guess, some like high-end junior players, maybe AHL players. I don't know what their
guys
plan
playing
is.
Overseas. Actually, that's a really good point about the R team, though, because if there are 800 players in the league and you say 50 to 60% of them are Canadian, so say 500 players, 500 divided by 20 or 25, you get good 20 teams out of that. That's a really good point, actually. I never thought about that.
You're really bottom of the barrel, right? I mean, we're talking about guys like Jason Megna can't go, right? And like think of how far down the tier list he would be. So I mean, it gets way down there. So they're gonna have to be looking in, Russia and leagues like that to find guys to go. And I mean, I'll still watch, but it's gonna be a lot less exciting. unfortunately.
Speaking of the Olympics too, I'd love to get your take on this, Parker. It's interesting. The JT Miller and Quinn Hughes were asked about it the day that they made the NHL and the NHLPA made the decision, and we know that Demko was the way he's been playing. You know, he was a shoe-in for one of the he might not be the starter, but one of the 3 spots
In consideration, at least.
Yes, Miller and Hughes, I think, would make the team, but they were both very humble. They both said, "Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I wasn't even counting on it." So it just kind of spoke to their not only their humility but their focus. And everyone knows that Stanley Cup takes precedent over an Olympic gold medal, as cool as that is. But it was kind of refreshing to hear that they weren't taking anything for granted. And even if they thought they should have or deserved to be on the team, they certainly weren't going to articulate that. So I thought that was good to hear.
Yeah, and at least for guys like Hughes and Demko, 4
Yeah.
years from now, they are still, I mean, they're still both under 30 and have shots of making it, right? You know, but I mean, for Miller, I mean, that's got a staying rate. He probably had a real shot at it. And he'll be, you know, a little bit into his 30s by the next time it comes around. There's going to be a whole nother crop of American players who have the ability of making that team. So we'll see. You know, I guess we're gonna have to wait, but hopefully we get some sort of World Cup or something to tie us over. Because it sucks not having these best on best tournaments. Because I mean, you think of some of your best hockey memories, right? And I mean, especially when you're a Canucks fan, there's not a lot for us, but you look at, 2010, 2002, right? These big, 2002 is a big one. 2010 being on home soil, going into overtime, right? That's the biggest goal that's been scored in Canada. Basically, it's these big moments that we just don't get the chance to experience.
Sure. And it's funny you mentioned the World Cup of Hockey. I watch highlights once every few months just for the heck of it. And that North American team, the U23 with McKinnon and it was McDavid. And they played against Sweden. And here I am cheering for Sweden a little bit because they have the Sedins and they just skated circles around the entire Swedish team.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. But it was a gimmick, right? And it kind of takes away from the whole, representing your country thing that the Olympics gives you, right? Because you have the Team Europe, which the Team Europe doesn't bug me as much because it's a bunch of countries that wouldn't really have a shot otherwise, right? The Slovakias, the Czech, Latvia. But the North American ones was like, hey, well, you could have put McDavid on Team Canada, you could have put Matthews on USA, McKinnon on Canada, right? You could put these players would have fit. Which would have made it a bit more real. So hopefully we get something like that.
And I will say, last week we talked about this too, the fact that it was coming down, and we were talking about, well, would they delay the Olympics? And you made a really good point. You said, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then I've realized that there are a bunch of other sports, not just hockey, that those athletes have been preparing for this year, not to put it off for another year. So yeah, maybe a World Cup of Hockey is a better hope than Olympic hockey, at least for another 4 years.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Now, let's lighten it up with some better news, some more fun news. And that is the fact that you guys have hockey to watch every single day this week. Because if you think about it, Canada beat the Czech 6-3 yesterday, which was great at the World Juniors. They made it interesting. I mean, the Czech had a lead in the first period. But you get Canada versus Austria tomorrow at 4. And you could watch Canada versus Germany the following day at 4 p.m., which will transition nicely into Canucks and Ducks at 7:30 p.m. And then on Thursday, the Canucks play the Kings at 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
And then on Friday, Canada plays Finland at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, the Canucks play the Kraken. And then on Sunday will be the quarterfinals of the World Juniors.
Nice.
And then do the Canucks play on the...
No, they don't play it on Wednesday after that.
Darn.
They wrecked it.
They did wreck it. But Canada should play again on Tuesday in the semifinals. And then Wednesday would be the gold medal game right before the Canucks would take on the Islanders on that Wednesday. So
who's in
so
Canada's
much
pool? Czechia, Austria. Who else is in our pool?
Canada has Finland, Germany, the Czech, and Austria.
Okay, gotcha.
So they've already beat the Czech 6-3.
Yeah.
They get Austria tomorrow. Austria lost their first game 7-1 I think it was against Finland. They got blown out. Then they take on Germany, who is 0-1-1, and they take on Finland, who's 2-0. And Finland has been doing really well. In their 2 games, they beat Austria 7-1, and they beat who'd they play on the 26th? This website's terrible. TSN needs to fix it. They beat Germany 3-1 the previous day. So
does that mean the other pool has US, Russia, Sweden, Slovakia, and someone else?
Those 5. Yeah. Sweden, US, Russia, Switzerland, Slovakia.
Oh, Switzerland. Okay.
Yeah. So
you know, I was getting
4
the
solid
Olympic
teams.
pools. I was getting the Olympic pools mixed up with the World Junior pools because I know Canada, US were in the same Olympic pool, but then I remember that China was in their pool too, and China's not in the World Junior. So okay, I got it.
Yeah. I guess China doesn't have to deal with McDavid anymore. Hey, they're gonna get Canada's R team, and it'll be like 10-0 instead of what did I predict? I was like they're gonna win like 40-0 or something.
Or maybe that was the first period. Yeah, no, you predicted.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be that unrealistic, right?
Oh, yes, and as you know, I'm half Chinese on my mom's side, so I was ready to be very sad. Yet still be very happy, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's funny that I was waiting for you to say Canada versus US, but I guess if we're gonna play them, it won't be until the playoffs.
Right? Yeah, that could be
weird.
You know, it could be a semifinal matchup, probably not a quarterfinal matchup because that would be 1 versus 4.
Yeah,
you have to imagine Canada will come either first or second in their pool. It'll be them or Finland.
Yeah,
and then they'll probably have to play a Switzerland or a Slovakia. Probably I would guess Slovakia. Or it could be Sweden, US, or Russia. If Canada gets this pool's important for Team Canada, right? If you come first, you play Switzerland or Slovakia. If you come second, you probably play the US or Russia.
Yes,
which is a much tougher battle. Russia has Zlodiev on their team, who is a Vancouver Canuck who scored today, this morning.
Player of the game, right, for them.
Did he get player of the game?
I think he did.
Good for him. That's great.
When did we draft him?
He was like a 6th round pick last year.
Okay.
Zlodiev. Dmitry Zlodiev, 2002 birthday. Wow, Canucks Army really overselling it. Watch, Canucks prospect Zlodiev scores fantastic goal at World Junior. It wasn't that. It was a fine goal. They're trying to get their clicks. 2020 6th round pick. So not this draft, but the draft before. Again, one of those guys who's he's probably not going to make it. Odds are so low. Being a 6th round pick, but hey, he scored a goal today, and that's fun.
Whenever you see Germany's rosters, do you think black skate Canucks jersey a little bit?
A little bit. Germany has nice jerseys.
Yeah. Did
All
I
right.
say Germany's the jersey?
You said the roster, but the jersey. I got it.
Okay, good.
Do we want to take some questions? We've got about 12 minutes here to go. This is a great chance. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about, anything we didn't have on our topics list, throw it in now, and we will take your questions. Also, shout out Frederick from Sweden, checking in with the good morning. I'm guessing it's like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. there. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Frederick. That's awesome.
Let's see. What do we got? Anything? I'm just scrolling through old comments here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any new ones that are popping up. That's on you.
Jaskrin's just from right now. Would OEL make the Olympics? I do think he would make the team. Remember, you take you take 14 forwards, 8 defensemen. So even if he doesn't make the third pairing, he's definitely among the top 8 defensemen in Sweden for sure.
I like this question from Ile. And I'll kind of reword it, but they say, would you prefer to be on a star on a bad team or a sub for a contender? And yeah, you can sort of go, the NHL term would be like a first line player for for a bad team, or would you be a black ace for a Stanley Cup winning team? That's a tough one, right? Because there's a few things you got to take into account. There's the money side, right? If you're a star, you're probably making $10 million a year more than the other one. Which is a lot, but you don't get a Stanley Cup ring. I want to know what's your answer on this.
Well, I'd love. I think I know why Eli's asking in a good way. He also asked me a similar question for my Ask Me Anything. And you know what's interesting? Actually, I had two questions. One of them was Olympic, a star on an Olympic team versus not so much on Olympic team versus and then another question was star on NHL team versus a third line. Someone said a bottom six. So I agree with you, Parker. There are so many things, playing time, money, because yeah, you could make 7 to 10 million and not win a cup. But if you're making 7 to 10 million for 7 or 8 years of your career, that's a lot better than 1 to 2 million with
for
one cup.
in 5 years. Yeah,
exactly.
Right? You're talking 60 million versus 5, maybe.
There's part of me that says, and I'm not trying to look like a whatever. It doesn't matter what I look like. I think I would take the cup. As a bottom six player, I think I would, because isn't that what you play for? I don't know.
Yeah, that is what you play for. But also, would I take $10 million a year to not win a Stanley Cup? Probably.
That's totally fair.
And then, yeah,
That's
you're a
totally
star
fair.
player. Sure, you'll go represent your country, maybe win a gold medal.
Yeah.
Maybe you become a coach later on. You win a cup that way. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
Then when you're 38, you take a pay cut and go to a contender, and then maybe you have a shot.
That's true. That's true. You could be a bottom six guy. I don't think he's
take the Jason Spezza route.
Yeah, I was gonna say Patrick Maroon, but he's not 38. But
yeah,
he seems like that kind of guy, right? Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think about
let's see here. Dimitri's saying, when do you think Rathbone gets called up and gets another shot at cracking the lineup?
It's funny. They asked Boudreau about that today. And Boudreau says, I don't know much about him. I've been spending my time learning about the guys that are on the roster right now, but I did read one article about him. So I think was it The Athletic who just did, isn't Harmon Dial who
Maybe.
just did it?
Yeah, he did a Q&A with him, I think.
Yeah, so it might be that one about he's definitely the next guy up. Oh, it's funny I say that, but then Bowie only came out because Rathbone was hurt, right?
Yeah, Rathbone was injured.
Okay.
I think Rathbone's got to be the next man up.
Yeah, I agree with you. So
especially with taxi squads, I think that gives him a bit of an edge.
Yep, I agree. And especially if Hamnick's if his return isn't imminent, then maybe you bring Rathbone out at least to be taxi squad. Now he's 8th on the depth chart. Yeah, I'd love to see him.
Yeah, Rathbone was so good at the start of the season. Too bad the team wasn't.
Yeah, and he might thrive under Boudreau's attack first system.
Yeah, potentially.
Yep.
All righty. What else do we got here? This is a question from Mr. Joker. Would you trade Brock Besser for Matthew Tkachuk?
What's Tkachuk's salary situation? Worse, not worse, more expensive, right?
He's getting $7 million a year this year, and he's an RFA after.
Oh, right, because he's younger. Oh, stupid.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's got I don't know what his QO is. If it was from before the rules changed, then it's a $9 million QO.
That sounds right.
$9 million this year.
That sounds right. It's because of that qualifying offer amount that seems a little high. I love Tkachuk's game though. I really do. I love what he brings, but
I think Tkachuk is more valuable than Besser.
Yeah.
But the contract is expensive.
It is.
But
we don't have anyone like Tkachuk on our team though.
I think you take that deal.
You take Tkachuk?
Yeah, I wouldn't like it, but I think you do it.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with the fact who we drafted instead of him. That's gone. That guy's gone now. That's gone. I'm with you. I'm with you, Parker.
Yep.
I want him on my team.
Yeah, fully agree. Let's see. Any other good questions you got here?
Yeah, actually, Shannon, if I can answer Shannon, the one I'm still confused on how and where the players come. So, Shannon, the taxi squad is basically any players that's not on our professional roster right now, the Canucks roster, the Vancouver Canucks. So you have to get them from Abbotsford. It's not like you can just pull these guys from anywhere. They have to be under contract to your team. But these are guys that are basically in our minor league team, and you bring them up as insurance just in case, as Parker said, a bunch of guys go down with COVID or we can't even fulfill a full roster. And for the bubble season last season, each team was permitted to have like 6 or 8 guys on their taxi squad. The negative is they're not playing in the AHL, so they're not getting playing time. But the positive is you have them and they're getting experience hanging around with the pros. So that's what a taxi squad is. Parker, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or.
That's good. Yeah, Melissa, going back to that Besser and Kachuk conversation, I have too many Besser jerseys to get rid of Besser. Yeah, she bought me one for Christmas, another one.
Nice.
The reverse retro.
Nice.
So I've got that one, and I've got the third jersey, the green one.
Oh, nice.
In Besser. And then I have his all-star jersey that doesn't have his name on it yet. So
nice.
We can't get rid of Besser. Because then I have bad jerseys that are cursed.
And I have some intel saying that Rob, who's in here, bought Shannon, who's in here, a Besser jersey for Christmas as well. So that's pretty cool. Great gift. Rob, you're very generous.
I don't think that trade's going to happen.
Yeah. You're safe, Shannon.
That Besser thing is going to be something to watch out for, right? Because his contract is up at the end of this season. And, there's things saying, they might not have the room to make that work. But I think they make the room. I think Besser's such an important piece that they make it work.
Yep. And there's something about keeping, you don't do it for the sake of doing it, but we've talked about how you kind of want to keep at least your draft picks through to the next contract, to the UFA status. You don't do it just for that, but you look at PD, Hughes, Horvat, Besser, you think that is going to happen. Demko. And I know it's going to be tough. Besser, Horvat, and Miller all standing to make anywhere between $7 and $8 million in the next contract, but that's for smarter people than us to figure out, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can clear up that space. There's players you can get rid of, right?
Sure.
If you can find a taker for Tyler Myers, right? Let's say you have to throw a third round pick out to get rid of Myers' contract, and that allows you to keep Brock Besser. That sounds worth it to me, right? Or even OEL, even though he's brand new to the team, or even JT Miller, right? If you are going to trade JT Miller and get a good haul back, that frees up the space for Besser as well. So I'm sure they'll make something work. Justin asks, if the Canucks make the playoff, would Boudreau be the favorite for coach of the year? I would put any amount of money down that he would win it if the Canucks make the playoffs. Yeah. It's not even close. Considering the state of the team that he came in, if they pull it out and make the playoffs, the Canucks will have had to have been basically a 115-point team under Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would absolutely win the coach of the year. No question.
I agree with you. He comes in after 25 games. So he gets 57 games. That's enough to base, it's not like it's only 30 or 40. So I agree with you, Parker. He does win coach of the year if the Canucks make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I like Marjorie's question. Marjorie's question. Which player? Yeah. Has any player impressed you so far this season? I think there are many. For me, actually, the one is Podkolzin. I know I totally pumped him up.
You said he was going to be on the second line, didn't you?
I did say he was going to take Höglander's spot. Then he had he got benched for 2 games or scratched, but his ice time has gone up 3.5 minutes since Boudreau has taken over. And that's one thing I've noticed and I've tracked. So I really like Podkolzin's game, especially in the last 3 weeks. So he's my pick.
I have so many answers to this. I mean, Quinn Hughes has been so much better than he was last year. Right. And that's what Marjorie mentions as well. He went from being, kind of a defensive liability last year to leading the team in plus minus this year. Again, plus minus isn't the be all end all, but he was a minus 24 last season. That's a big increase, right? That's a big bump. Who else? Tyler Myers still isn't great, but he has been a lot better. Podkolzin's a good one. I've been impressed the last few games by Jason Dickinson. I think he's been playing a lot better. If you had told me that Kyle Burrows was going to have played almost every game so far this season, I would have said, who's that?
Yeah.
And he's been totally okay. So I think there's been a lot of people who have, especially in the last 3 weeks, have really impressed me.
I got one for you, and I was looking something up, so forgive me if you said this guy's name. Guess which defenseman, because of injuries, has seen his ice time increase by more than 4 minutes under Boudreau? And he's not one of the top guys.
Has Luke Shen been playing every game?
There you go.
Out? Is it Luke Shen? Yeah.
4 minutes plus of extra ice.
He's been playing like 19 minutes a game.
With Hughes. He's basically become the new Hamonic. Yeah.
And he's been fine. Honestly, like he's been pretty good, and I wouldn't have guessed that, but
Yeah.
I mean he's a +6 this year. He's third on the team. That's crazy.
Well, it's good when you can pass the puck up to number 43 and just kind of cover the net kind of thing.
Yeah, he's doing that job pretty well.
Yes.
Any last couple you guys that you want to take here?
Gilbert Goose actually is a good question because people that have season, since the Canucks refunded the season tickets for the Kraken game, single tickets, and now the game is postponed, do you think they would give those season ticket buyers priority when the game is? So Gilbert, what the Canucks do is they give the season ticket holders priority first because there's exactly 50%, 9,000, but season ticket holders do not. I know for the preseason, they could opt out of I don't know if they can do that for rescheduled games. And then it would then go back to the general public for buying. But I don't think you're going to get a refund as opposed to priority on repurchasing. That's I think how they do it.
I thought they had said I thought they had said that to hold on to your ticket would still be valid for next time, but I guess that's not what they did. They said with 50% capacity limits in place, we asked fans who purpose to just check their email for updates. Yeah. So I guess in that case, because that was before it got straight up postponed.
Correct.
I think they would just do the refund and deal with it later. I'm sure they would rather just let you keep your ticket because they get to keep the money in that case. But if it's a 50% thing, then they have to refund half of them.
And Parker, the tricky thing is, let's say as a season ticket member, let's say I sold you my tickets for an upcoming game, right? That gets postponed. Technically, because it's just me to you, all they're going to do is they're going to re-put the tickets in my account, and then I can just transfer them to you again. All good, right? But if you had bought from like a SeatGeek or a Showtime or Game Time or whatever, technically you have to go after them, of course, because the Canucks have no way of tracking where the tickets have gone to. That's tough. That's because now you're at the mercy of the third-party seller's refund, I guess. Policy.
Yeah, it's a weird system. You'd think, okay, well, because everything gets transferred through Ticketmaster, right? You think, okay, well, we'll just give the refund to whoever is in possession of the ticket. But no, it's like, okay, we'll give the refund to the person who had the ticket first. And then, so the person, let's say you bought off Craigslist off some random guy and they just Ticketmaster transfer it to you. I mean, I don't even know what happens, but it's unfortunate.
That's tricky.
Mm-hmm. Justin asking how everyone's Canucks After Dark preseason predictions are looking. This is good because I think almost everyone has forgotten, and I kind of like that because that's fun. I can pull up a couple of the things right now. I have the responses in general. Keep in mind 70 out of 74 said they'd make the playoffs, so that's still it still could happen. Things are looking a little bit better, but only 2 out of 74 said that Travis Green would be fired. And only 6 out of 74 said Jim Benning would be fired.
Wow.
However, what is interesting is the longest winning streak question that we had. Because we had 24 out of the 74 people say 6. So, and then we also had another 17 say 7.
Okay,
and then everyone else was kind of interspersed, 4, 5, and then a bit after. But 6 was the most popular answer, and that's where the Canucks are at right now. We'll see if that gets broken.
Well, I hope the 17 people are right.
Me too. Almost everything else was some other stuff. Wow, I had a question on how many NHL games Olli Juolevi would play this year. He's not even on the team. Matthew Highmore or Zach McEwen, who plays more games? Well, Zach McEwen's in Philly. I had Demko's save percentage as a question. Lots of people in like the high 910s, which are looking okay right now. It'll be interesting near the end of the year. Maybe we'll do a bit of an update fairly soon.
Yeah, that's a great topic, especially on an off week or a slow week for sure, where we can revisit some of those. That's a good one for sure.
Absolutely.
I like it.
All right. Last question from Bruce. Do the Canucks win the week? They play 3 games this week. Ducks Wednesday, Kings Thursday, Kraken Saturday. Do the Canucks win the week?
Well, I said 2-0-1, so 5 out of 6 points, and you went with the 3-0, 6 out of 6. So both of us say the Canucks definitely win this week, and we finish off 2021 above 500.
I love it. All right. Thank you guys very much for joining us tonight. You'll catch up with us on Wednesday, Canucks and Ducks, 7:30 p.m., a late one. So make sure you guys aren't getting up too early the next day. It'll be a fun week to hopefully get back to some Canucks hockey. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it would be good to hopefully see a couple of Canucks wins and maybe some World Junior Canada wins as well.
It's crazy. As we wrap up, the last game you said was the Canucks December 16th. So that it's December 27th. That's only 11 days. Doesn't it feel like way longer than that?
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time.
But because they're doing so well, we're excited. We want to see them win again and win again and win again.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you guys very much for joining us tonight. We'll be back as always next Monday.
In the new year.
In the new year, a New Year's celebration show for 2022. Hopefully, it's an even better year than this was. Thank you guys very much, and we will see you later on.